Hey, what's up, all you students of the dojo? Welcome back to Sunday Night Stream. Unfortunately, it's just me tonight. The other guys, JT is working on the Weekend Dojo video game tonight, so he won't be able to stop in. He might drop in towards the end if a problem doesn't present itself, but let's not count on it. And Kenny is, well, he's got work to do. So tonight, I'm all alone. So sad. But tonight's subject is going to be Adam West's history and career. Yes, as many of you may know, the legend Adam West passed away a few weeks ago. So tonight we are going to be talking about him and his career. Oh, hello. So let's start off with, well, obviously we all know him, his acting career as Batman, but he actually had roles before that. When he was in Hawaii, he actually was sidekick to a chimp in an old school children's show. Star. It's not really something too terribly impressive. Moving on, he did actually appear in the film The Young Philadelphians with Paul Newman, and he was on a bunch of old westerns during the time. Now, this was, again, before he took off as Batman. And, you know, he was in and out of several different movies before then, up until about the 1960s, when he finally became the Adam West. We know the Adam West Batman. And this was sort of a campy TV show. It was very much based off of the Silver Age of the Batman comics. And it was campy. It was very campy. At the time, we had really started to see Adam West become the actor that he is. He's asking me how I am. Well, I'm doing very well, thank you. You know, that's when we started to see that's the Adam West we identify with. That's when we think of Adam West, we think of the Batman actor, right next to Burt Ward, all the ridiculous gadgets that are oddly specific to the situation, the kick-ass Batmobile, and of course, just the weirdness that he was able to portray. Now, this is going to be less of a talk show thing and more me just talking for a while, so you're going to have to forgive me if I don't have anyone to play off of. He actually worked really well. I especially love when he got to play off of Cesar Romero, because I feel that, you know, his overly serious nature actually was, the goofiness was accentuated when he was put right next to Cesar Romero's Joker. And later on, he actually did star in as Batman in a film version directed by Leslie H. Martinson, and this was released about 1966. I actually have a VHS tape of that movie. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense, and I love it. That's all I can say about that movie. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense, and I love it. And I oddly associate that tape that I own with another tape that I own, which is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Not versus Monster Zero. This is King Ghidorah. And the reason I associate those two tapes together is because I bought them shop around the same time. When I say collector shop, it was like an indoor flea market. It was one of those weird things, but it was very specifically a store that just sold knickknacks. And VHS tapes happened to be one of them. Yes, I know, I'm a friggin' hipster. I should stick to DVDs or Blu-rays or just watch it on Netflix, but there's something charming and nostalgic about just popping a VHS tape into the VCR and just hearing that clunk and the horror of the wheels. But I'm getting off track. So he did star in the Batman. It was simply entitled Batman, and he actually did some other stuff with the Batman character that he portrayed. He encouraged kids to, heed President Johnson's call for buying U.S. savings stamps, which were kind of a kiddie version of savings bonds, and this was to support the Vietnam War efforts. There was a lot of that stuff going around at the time, so I can't really say I have a good or a bad opinion on that. I think at the time he was doing what he thought was necessary for his country. So take that how you will. And around 1970, he was offered the role of Bond, James Bond, for the film Diamonds Are Forever. He did not accept it, ladies and gentlemen. He did not accept it, as we all know from that movie. And he actually stated later that he believed that the role should always be played by a British actor. I like that. He was a fan of the series, and so he was trying to keep it consistent. After he kind of he hanged up the cape and cowl, along with Burt Ward and Yvonne Craig, Robin and Batgirl, they kind of became typecast because after doing a show like that for that long, it's understandable that you wouldn't really be able to escape that image. And so for a while he had to make a living just from appearing as Batman. And when Ward and Craig reprised their roles for public service announcements about equal pay for women, West was absent, unfortunately. Instead, they had this other actor fill in for Batman. I can't remember his name. I feel like he was trying to be like West, but he didn't pull it off. And after the series ended, he really only had a couple more memorable roles. Obviously, he was actually he actually appeared on the USWA, the United States Wrestling Association, which is based out in Memphis, where he started laying down some smack talk with Jerry the King Lawler. He's now one of the color commentary people on WWE, and he was actually wearing a cowl and tracksuit when he did this, and he even name dropped Spider-Man, which is kind of dumb but also awesome. Firstly, this was before I think Stan Lee would have been all right with it. I think the two are similar enough that Stan was cool with doing it. Oh, and Kung E. Mueller says, nobody can play Batman better than Adam West, even though some guys have served the Batman franchise quite well. I wouldn't say that there aren't any people who can play Batman better than Adam West. I think no one will be able to play Batman like Adam West, though. There are going to be many people who try to fake his voice and fake his intonations, but no one is going to be able to capture the campiness that he had. Of course, Batman is, outside of the Silver Age of comics, is meant to be a serious character, so I think you need to pick someone who can really make you take what he's saying and what he's doing seriously. However, that is not to say that there isn't a place for Adam West's career. I think he was an awesome actor and continued to be an awesome actor later on, and we'll get into that. He actually appeared in a few other films after the whole wrestling thing. He was in The Marriage of a Young Stockbroker, Curse of the Moonchild, Specialist. He actually played himself in a movie called Hooper, which I haven't seen. I heard of it in my research for tonight's stream. He was in The Happy Hooker Goes Hollywood. We're going to leave that name alone. And coincidentally, in 1983, he starred in a film called One Dark Night, and that's N-I-G-H-T, not night as in chivalry. But I do love that he was in that. I don't know, that just tickles me a little bit. And he did guest shots on a bunch of different television series, too many to count. But that was kind of he was in The Last Precinct. Now that I think about it, and after a while, he did actually return to the whole Batman Bruce Wayne thing for a short-lived animated series called The New Adventures of Batman, which many of you have probably heard of. It was kind of the Scooby-Doo era animation. I believe he actually appeared. No, he definitely appeared alongside Scooby-Doo. I believe that episode involved Robin making peanut butter and anchovy pie. Now, I like peanut butter and pickle sandwiches sometimes, so I can't really criticize him. He was in other stuff like the Batman/Tarzan Hour, Tarzan and the Super 7. Obviously, he was in Super Friends. We cannot forget Super Friends. A bunch of different superhero shows, all as Batman, obviously. And then in 1979, he became Batman again for a live-action TV special called The Legend of Superheroes. And I think that was good for him to do as a Batman, as returning to the Batman, especially considering that DC did name him one of the best. As he was for the 50th anniversary publication. They said he was an honoree, and I think that is, well, obviously, as it would imply in the name, that is an astounding honor. And he was actually considered to play Thomas Wayne film. I don't know why they didn't do that. I think that would have been perfect. He wouldn't have had to do much, but I think if we just got one line out of him, just one, then that would have just lit that movie up. And I think we would all have a lot of its goofiness. Well, we describe it almost. It was like a dark cartoon. I could describe that movie, and which would campy nature. Know what went wrong? I could understand, why he personally wouldn't want to do it, especially considering that he's so used to playing Batman. Either Batman or himself, usually. And then he actually was also he also made an appearance on Batman the Animated Series. The one who was really dark and gritty and had one of the best versions of the Joker that I can think of. Personal opinion, but I think that was one of the best animated versions of the Joker. But he wasn't Batman, because Kevin Conroy was already doing that. He actually played an actor who used to play in a TV series. So, he was having a hard time finding work, which actually, I don't know if that was, if Wes did that because it was commentary on his own work, or if that was just because, or if that was just because felt that they needed to put Adam West in one episode. I'm not sure. And now about the 1990s to the 2000s, he became sort of a pop culture icon at this point. He was in Drop Dead Gorgeous. He was in a couple of TV series. The Adventures of Pete and Pete being one of them. I remember that because I would always try to find episodes of it wherever I could as a kid because we didn't have cable. But that's another story. Let's see. And if you guys remember, okay, a show of. Well, you can't do me a show of hands. So, how many of you have watched the Goosebumps series, the live action one, not the books? Those books are pretty good. Anyone? Well, anyway, he was in the series. He was in the episode Attack of the Mutant, and it's about this kid. I actually know the plot to this one. He was a comic book geek, and his favorite superhero, Galloping Gazelle, who was West, is fading on the verge of retirement. And he finds out Gazelle is real. Yada yada yada. It's nothing big. Attack of the Mutant actually focused a little bit less on Gazelle and more on the actual mutant, but that'd be the book anyway. But that's a story for another day. And in about the mid '90s, Adam wrote an autobiography called Back to the Batcave, and it was more or less, it was his second autobiography, I believe. So I haven't read it, but I am looking to find a copy. If any of you know how to find like a cheap paperback of that, I would love to have that in my collection. I think that would be awesome. And he actually was also in a couple of video games for a while. Obviously, with a voice like that, I could see him doing like a few different games. He was in a gambling game called the Golden Nugget, and I think that works perfectly because his voice is so Vegas. I really don't know how else to describe it other than it's Vegas. He sounds like someone you would go to Las Vegas to watch a show for, like Siegfried and Roy, or I'm not gonna. Yeah, Cungy Miller actually brings up a good point. Adam West did actually play himself on Family Guy in the early 2000s, and that was one of his last major TV roles. And since Batman ended, it was the longest that he had ever played a role, even though it was voice acting. And I'm actually curious to see, now that he's passed, I want to know if we're gonna see if Adam West as a character in Family Guy is just gonna be phased out, or if they're going to try to bring someone else in to impersonate West. I think it would be better, personally, if they could just phase out the Adam West character, maybe have like a statue of him somewhere in the as a permanent fixture in the show. Yeah, you could probably explain it in ways like Adam West wasting taxpayer money or something, and then have it actually be an homage to Adam himself. I think that would be probably one of the greatest things that Seth MacFarlane could do for him. And I don't have my jacket up here right next to me right now. When he passed, actually, I had bought a little button for my battle duster that said "Calling Batman" because I felt like the world needs people like Adam just to keep things in perspective. Not like say, well, you got it like this, but people have it like that. No. He just gave you an opportunity to laugh. That kind of an opportunity, you should really take it because a lot left to laugh about in the world right now. It's getting pretty cruddy out there. Time. Hmm. But yeah, up in the 2010s, he actually got Palm Springs Walk of Stars. He deserved for a long time to get one sooner. Let me just check my notes here. You can find it at 6764 Hollywood Boulevard in front of the Guinness Museum in Hollywood. Um, that might be a good trip to make at some point. I wonder if there's any conventions out in Hollywood that I could excuse to go check out that star. He also guest starred as himself on the 200th episode of Big Bang Theory. Up because I have not watched more than maybe 10 episodes of BBT. Yeah, you can't blame me. I mean, it's a good show. It's probably should be kept going. Oh, another thing from Connie Mueller. Seth MacFarlane actually Adam West died that Quahog lost its mayor. Adam's character will be phased out in the fall. Although, well, thank you, Connie Mueller. I appreciate that bit of information. Um, After that, he did a bunch of different Futurama, Rugrats, Hysteria, Kim Possible, Bravo. Even in an episode of going back to that Batman the animated series thing, Ghost. Oh, I love this bit. He voiced Catman in the Fairly Odd Parents, and now you would think that Fairly Odd Parents is just their analog for Batman, but actually Catman existed in the comics beforehand with that color scheme as a villain. And he's a robber, essentially. Pardon me, his costume is made out of this fabric that's supposed to give you 9 lives. He was one of the lesser known villains, but them turning that into a hero and casting Adam West again brought back the campiness that Adam after. I don't think anyone will ever be able to really, because he has that bassy voice, but at the same time he kind of dances around with it, if that makes sense. But yeah, speaking of Seth MacFarlane, Kangi Mueller, that he went out of his way to really not making any references. Now, I don't know how well that took off, because I know that Spider-Man guy, like way or another. Maybe this is an opportunity for them to do more bits. I don't know, but I think knowing sentiment show isn't it probably isn't going to take that step. Actually, he even and voiced Barnacle Boy. These are the young versions of them. The old rocking back and forth. Evil Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy were actually voiced by and Bert. And it's tight cast. The invisible boatmobile, the utility belt that has, W for Wampum. If Mermaid Man had powers, I think that was step up too. Powers came from the costume, so they're technically gadgets, and we come full circle. He did a lot of voice acting. 13, Gecko's Getting Up, Contents Under Pressure. He actually played the adult version Chicken Little. He also did in the movie, I believe. He had some short. That particular character had of it on screen. I mentioned that, but he was in a lot of Scooby stuff because video. And he actually also voiced him. I found out that he voiced himself and the version of Batman in the Batman Beyond Gotham. That one, but in my personal experience with Lego, they don't do a lot of talking. So, did he just do the whole thing, or I'm not sure. Now, when he died, it was following about, and the honor him in LA because that's where he died. Is they shown the bat signal on City Hall in LA, and perfect. I think how he would want to be remembered, and I think he was a lot like one other person I know that I won't go into. He was a lot. He was in many ways. He tried to be. He tried to help people, and even it was just by bringing them a laugh, or even if it wasn't a laugh, a lot of people will hear Adam West's voice and they'll go, ah. I think that in and of itself is enough to make someone's day maybe just a little bit better. It's not going to fix a totally broken day. Oh, so apparently, according to Cungy Miller, Adam West actually voiced Batman in 2 direct-to-video movies. I'm trying to think. Was one of those The Killing Joke? Or Under the Red Hood? I want to say it's Under the Red Hood had to be one of them. Hmm. But yeah, that was Adam West's career. He had a long and oh, one of them was The Return of the Caped Crusaders. I'm gonna have to look for that. I think I want to watch that. But yeah, I think from way back in the 50s all the way up to the 2010s, Adam West had an amazing career as an actor. I'm not going to go into his personal life because this was particularly about his career. And his personal life should remain that, his personal life. I know there's a lot of demand for celebrities to reveal their personal lives. Oh, the Cape Crusaders versus Two-Face. Okay, I'm going to have to look for those. But right now, we're just going to look at Adam West as he was and his career, which I think is probably going to be one of the most successful acting careers ever. I think that's the kind of career one should live up to, where you become that well known for something that every time you hear something like that, you describe it as like the Adam West voice or the Adam West style. So I don't know. I think that's the mark of success is when you become an icon in a way. Anyway, that only took up about 30 minutes. If I had had more people here, this would have taken a lot longer. But, we've only got 3 people on the dojo, and 2 of them are busy tonight, so there's nothing really I can do about it. If we had someone who was like a dedicated Sunday night stream host that could mix and match the other 3 of us, that would be ideal. But that's a story that's we're gonna have to see how that works out in the future. Tone, if you're watching, that's what we're looking for. For like, if you're out there people hunting, we could really use someone to just kind of host Sunday nights. And man, I find myself at a loss of things to talk about, so I guess I'll just talk about what I've been doing lately. Now, I've had a lot of opportunity in the past 2 weeks to just kind of walk around downtown Brattleboro, which is a city in southern Vermont. I don't live there. I think it would be cool to live there, but I do not live there. And when you're in downtown Brattleboro, it's one of those older cities where like all the buildings in that area are from the 1930s and 40s. And there's a lot of nerdy shops. And two of my favorite stores out there sell comic books. You would be hard pressed to travel for more than, I'd say, a block and not find a shop that sells some kind of comics. And that's where a lot of money has gone. I've been buying tons of comics, and this particular store I went to was a record store, a music store. And yes, I've bought some other stuff there too. I've bought some CDs and movies and whatnot. But I keep going back for the comics because about that time of day, I typically need something to read. And I keep forgetting to bring a book with me when I go out there. So I grabbed just like a stack of comics for about $10, or $8-9, and then I get a $1 soda. I get a Moxie, which, by the way, is a New English kind of cola drink. It's just a very, very bittersweet cola, and I love it. Some people hate it. I love it. I wish I had a sign with it. I wish I had like a sign I could hang up back here somewhere that just said Moxie across it. One of those old sales signs they would stick in windows. And so what I would do is I would grab those, and I would go over to a little place called Pliny Park, which is a stone park. It's just there's no grass or anything. There's a garden, and it's stonework and a really long hemicyclar bench. And I just sit there and listen to the occasional artist play their music while I read this stack of comic books. And a lot of them are like the really old pulp comics. And because they're pulp comics and they were not really kept sealed and in a dark place, they have yellowed significantly, bringing the price way down to about $1 or $2. And I've really been getting into the Spectre comics lately. I find that to be a really cool concept. Just a spirit of vengeance. His job is not to protect or to rescue. His job is vengeance. And I find that kind of moral dilemma, that that you're in a job where you cannot save people, I think provides one of the best storytelling elements out there. It's one of my favorite storytelling elements. You can see it happening, but you can't change it. You're trapped, and you still have to act upon it. And I've actually read one of the later. I've actually managed to get my hands on the complete later series of the Spectre. It was before the New 52, and it wasn't Jim Corrigan. I forget his name. And if I recall correctly, there was a big old uproar that it wasn't Jim Corrigan. Because, like, oh, the Spectre shouldn't have a goatee. He's a ghost. He's a ghost. The Spectre it doesn't really matter what the Spectre looks like. He ultimately ends up looking more or less the same anyway, considering that, you know, you turn friggin' white as a sheet wearing green undies and a cloaked hood, just stomping around the world in pixie boots, yeah, I think it's okay to give him a little bit of extra flair. I think the goatee would suit him quite well. And I've also been picking up a lot of Superman comics, Action Comics. I've started buying up all the old Wednesday Comic Weekly thing. It looks like a big old newspaper, but it's just a bunch of short comic strips strung together in a series. I kind of wish DC would still do that, but I think you would have to have access to a newsstand, because I can't imagine that showing up in your mailbox once a week on Wednesday on time. So there's a bit of a dilemma there, but I would like to see DC do something like that again, because I really like the Flash story in that. I've only got 2 issues of it, but I'm trying to buy more of them. Trouble is, it's a very expensive thing to buy there, because I think they're collectible or something. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. How about we open? How about we go into open discussion? I'll ask you guys a question this time, and you guys can give me an answer. Have you read comic books? Do you or have you ever read comic books? If so, which ones did you like the most, and which ones did you like the least? We got 3 viewers. I know one of you can answer. Come on. Waiting. While I wait for you guys to answer, I'm going to go grab a few of the comics that I've been purchasing. I want to show them to you guys because I'm really excited about them. Okay, this is the one I was actually really excited to show you guys. This is DC's Talent Showcase. I don't know how many of these were done. This is the only one that I know of, but it's essentially just a bunch of short stories. You can see it's rather thick for one comic. I love the smell of old pulp paper. Tone's like, I read Deadpool, I like Deadpool. Well, Deadpool's a good character. He's funny. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, it is pulp paper. It has yellowed significantly. This one is called Heart of a Skeek. And keep in mind, these are all short stories, so the only way they really work is if there's a twist at the end that leaves it on a cliffhanger that doesn't really have to be picked up. But I like that kind of storytelling if it's done well. Now, the biggest reason I like these old pulp paper comics... Oh, Connie Miller. Well, I've read some of the classic Batman comics. My older brother would read the Incredible Hulk comic series back in the day, too. That was back when comics were actually cool. I think they're still kind of cool. You just have to, you know, key your brain into different ways of thinking for different time periods. But the one thing I think that makes old comics better than new comics are the mail-in ads. I mean, oftentimes I'll dig through one of these comics and I'll see one of these ads and I'll think, huh, I wonder if that address actually still works. If I mailed in like 50 cents, would I actually get that Oreo glass, or would I get, you know, the Hercules arm bracer or something like that? Let's see if I can find another one to show you. I'm not going to show you too much of the stories, because I think you should, if you can find it, you should grab one of these or read it somewhere, and you would get a huge kick out of it. Actually, well, I can show you one panel. That right there is from DC. And now this superhero doesn't have a name. We're not entirely sure what all of his powers are. All we know is that he transforms into this character. Now, I see a couple of different inspirations here. I obviously see Batman. It looks like a little bit of Deathstroke / Deadpool in the mask. And I want to say Shazam / Superman with the cape. I don't know. I kind of wish that there was a wiki article on this hero so that I could figure out the name. But then again, I have to image search it, so who knows. But yeah, a lot of these have twists. Some of them don't even have dialogue, but they still manage to portray so much. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you have the opportunity, do do not hesitate to run down to your local comic book shop, wherever. They're going to have long boxes full of these old comics for like 50 cents, $1, $2, $5, $10. The $10 ones are going to be the more memorable, famous issues. Obviously, there's a lot of them in circulation, so you're not going to get much. Unless you have like the original issue ones of certain superheroes, comics are never going to be a very profitable franchise or a profitable investment. The only reason you should buy a comic is because you enjoy reading it. Obviously, you should take care of your comics as well. I'm not saying that you should just read them with greasy ass Dorito fingers and sticky hands, but open them up and read them. The only reason I'm actually looking to find another issue of The Death of Superman open so I can still read it. I want to keep that one closed because I don't want to risk tearing the packaging, ironically. I like the way the packaging looks. Let's see if I can find another advertisement in here for you guys, because the Superpowers collection. This is actually referenced on the first issue too. It was back when all these action figures had actions, gimmicks as we call them today, but back then it was like kung fu grip action and whatnot. As you can see here, Superman has a punching action. They advertise it as they've got a bunch of different stuff that you would just squeeze them in a way. With Superman, you would squeeze his legs together, and that would activate a gear function in his torso that would cause his non-posable arms to swing up and punch things. And as far as I can tell, the range was pretty limited. This might have been the first wave, though. They had Superman, Hawkman, the Joker, Wonder Woman, Batman, Aquaman, the Penguin, Superman, Luthor, the Flash, Brainiac, Green Lantern, and Robin. And by today's standards, these would feel like McDonald's toys. But there's a certain amount of, I think, nostalgia in just having an action figure that sells itself primarily on the action. Here we go. So here's a whole page of advertisements here. I think having this is why I kind of want to see if a lot of these actually still work, if whoever has this business address actually still has the machine that they use to make those identicards, because I think that'd be kind of cool for like members of the dojo to have their own IDs. And obviously there's a million free self-defense or cheap self-defense school advertisements here that don't work. Oh, there's a little ad at the bottom that I wonder if you guys saw it. I don't think you guys saw it, but we're going to ignore it for now because that's a touchy subject. There's one where it's like a what is ninja thing where, again, it's one of those self-defense things, but you could also get like a throwing star and a caltrop. I hope those are rubber caltrops, because you could actually get away with selling a lot of crazy stuff in comic books back in the day, like the Charles Atlas workout routine, which didn't work. Should I get a hold of one of those? Should I try that for like 3 weeks and then see what it does? Would you guys like to see if that has any effect? Yes? No? Well. I've got my own kind of routine, and I'm quite happy with it. It's not much, but it's better than what I had before I started doing it. Aside from the DC showcase, we've got... I'm not going to talk too much about Grim Fairy Tale. That is a fan service story in and of itself. It's an ecchi thing. This is what I'm talking about. The Wednesday comics. This, again, was run back in 2009. I kind of wish DC would do something like that again. I never saw any of these before a few weeks ago, not even in my local library, which is where I got most of my exposure to comic books back in the day. So let's take this out and show it to you guys. Now, from the front, you would think, yeah, it's a pulp comic, but it's not done being opened. So dang. Okay, dang. It's got 5 stories in it. You can usually tell. Sergeant Rock and the Easy Company. I don't think I've ever seen a comic specifically for him. I think he only existed in DC's Wednesday Comics. And that's interesting because we rarely see like a militant hero alongside superheroes, and I guess that's because that's a touchy subject right now. That's understandable. But I think it would be kind of neat just to see like a Sergeant Rock and the Easy Company thing show up. Alongside other things like from other compilation magazines, like Action Comics had a character called Wild Dog who had an injured knee. He used to be in the Marines, and then he came back and kind of became a vigilante, a gun-toting vigilante, so he was very much reflective of the 80s and 90s of comics, but I think I'd like to see like a dedicated Mad Dog comic. I think they could get away with it too, especially because they ran Superman's Action Comics in the New 52 for a while. And then this is what I mean by like why I like the Spectre. Firstly, that cover. I would like to frame that and hang it in my house. So I don't know if obviously Tone says she's read Deadpool and that she likes Deadpool. I suppose, yeah, we've got time. I could give a few suggestions out there. Now, I'm not going to tell you where to go and read these. I would have to recommend getting the actual physical copies because I like having the physical copies, although I have read digital versions in the past. Now, I would obviously recommend, let's see, this was printed in May of '93. I would definitely recommend the '93 series of the Spectre. I think the art is just so unique, and it's an excellent version of the story. So let's see if I can. I'm a casual comic fan, so forgive me, but let's see. Tom Mandrake. I think that's a perfect name for a writer of a series like for an artist of a series like the Spectre. It was written actually by John Ostrander. I like Mandrake's visual style. I like the big swooping motions that he's able to pull off, even back in the day when you probably only had a piece of paper, a drafting desk, and a bunch of pens. So obviously you had to rely on a colorist later on to fill in the color, but that's still very well done. That's a very recognizable style, especially if you were to look at something like this panel here. So yeah, the '93 version of the Spectre, if you can find it, grab it up. You shouldn't have to pay more than $2 to $3 an issue if they're not in like shiny new condition. They're going to have yelled a little bit because that's just the likelihood of it. And this is the 3-part series of the '06 Spectre I was talking about before the New 52 kicked off. So as you can see, yeah, goatee. It's a different kind of style. It's very minimalist, I would say. Very, I don't want to say self-shaded, but that's what I'm leaning towards here. And again, if you can find it, the Talent Showcase is an amazing read. Get it. Why are you still sitting? Go get it. Why are you still sitting in this? Go get a copy of the Talent Showcase. It's an amazing piece of work. Now, I'm not a comic book reviewer, so I might do comic reviews on the dojo if that's something you guys would like to see. But again, I'm only going to do it if you guys want to see me do it. And so here's how it's going to work. Obviously, we only have a few viewers when the stream is actually running. I know we have more later on. So here's how it's going to work. Tweet at the weekend at weekend_dojo, all lowercase, and tweet at me, of course, obviously at ElChizzo1, and let me know if you would like me to read comics, and if so, which ones. And I'll try to get a hold of some copies so that I can review them for you. I think that would be fun. But it would only be on the dojo because it's not my typical format, and we do need some video content on the dojo. I'll obviously have to discuss with Tone. She's now our new manager. Hi, Tone. I'll have to discuss with Tone to see what would be a good schedule for that so that she can be prepared and have like her hand right there over the tweet button. Huh? Oh, hello. Oh, you're just joining us. We're kind of pretty late into it, but yeah, we just finished talking about Adam West's career. We were talking about comic books for a little bit, and there's a bit of an open discussion question for you since you're just joining us. Have you ever read comic books, and if so, which story did you like the best? And then I was running through some suggestions here. I actually have a lot more than this that I bought in the past few weeks. This was see, this right here was the result of a day's shopping, and that looks bigger than it is because of the cardboard backings. I am doing very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've not been too active lately, as I've had a lot of adulting to do. I am still trying to make the dojo work, and I promise you, I am going to make time for the dojo. The other guys, like I said, are also doing their best. Kenny is working in a position where it's difficult for him to upload and to stream regularly. And tonight, JT is actually working on a Weekend Dojo video game. I apologize. I can't really read that. Is that the name of a comic book? And if so, could you tell me how it's pronounced so that I can look it up? Because I love hearing about new comics. Let's see, what else is there? Well, I guess manga would be a good thing to talk about. See, me and a few other members of the show that will eventually be called Otaku Senki Reviewger were hanging out, and a lady up at the local market who knows us had actually rescued a box of like 3 big boxes of manga from being recycled, and she had saved them for us. So she brought them down, and we divvied them up, and I ended up with the entire series of Holic, which I loved the anime, but I never had the opportunity to read the manga. But now that I'm reading the manga, I love all the references in it. I have a lot of manga. I really should read more manhwa. Yeah, how about viewers? Why don't you leave suggestions for manhwa for me to read in the chat room? I probably should have grabbed more comics to show you guys, but that would require me digging through my collection. But I really should get a long box to kind of semi-organize these. I do not know English. I'm Russian. Ah, well, that's understandable. Well, thanks for stopping by, though, even though I keep going on and on in English. Uh, hmm. I think that's going to have to be where we wrap it up for the evening, ladies and gentlemen and others. So, thank you for watching. Again, I apologize for being the only one running the stream this week. Hopefully, it will pick up again later on. Hopefully, JT will be able to join me for a Tech Talk Thursday. I'll discuss it with him, see if I can't suss it out. And again, hopefully, we'll be able to do Tokuchatsu on Saturdays. I know Kenny's going to try his damnedest to make that happen. And as always, I'll always be around for Sunday night streams. You guys know that. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this content, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Go back to, if you want to, check out the Weekend Dojo channel page. You'll see all of our channel names just down the featured channel sidebar there. Click on those. Check us out. I am trying to find time to edit down a new toy review on my channel, because that's kind of the core of what I try to do on my channel is toy reviews. JT is getting back into the swing of things. He's kind of divvied his time between the dojo and working on the game, so his uploads are going to be a little spotty. Kenny is really great for uploading consistently, but he's also going to be having trouble uploading on his main channel because of work. So we appreciate you going to subscribe to us on our main channels. But if you want to see us more regularly, you will find us here. Thank you once again so much for watching. And to quote JT, Kenny, and then myself, I'll see you later, guys. Stay more phenomenal, everyone. And I will see you later, Bugheads. Oh, and remember, no matter how tough life gets, there's always a spot for you here at the dojo, where your weekend starts on Wednesday. And if you ever feel stressed or upset, now I don't recommend this in place of proper relaxation, but if you feel like you need to get away from something, just escape for a little bit, that's what the dojo's here for, okay? Feel free to watch anytime you want. And because these streams are uploaded as videos later, you can always watch those. I'm going to start uploading reviews of more expensive toys. JT is going to start posting stuff about the game once it gets a little further along in its development. Oh, Tyrex from Germany. Well, I am glad to see that we've got viewers all the way from Germany. Thank you so much for tuning in. Unfortunately, you tuned in right at the end, but feel free to go back and watch the whole thing. It's just me tonight, but there's usually 2 other guys here. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later, Bugheads.